The FAA last week also delayed flights to and from airports in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando due to the space launch debris from SpaceX. Love that for us.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We got to see what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to from February the 28th to March 7th. Also, I'll start with a note that all information on Florida's public sector union elections come from McKenna Schuler's monthly roundup of Florida union news. You can check it out on her website, caringclassrevolt.substack.com. You can also get more information about Florida labor there, as well as exclusive details about the union elections referenced here. In new union campaigns, and also, one more note, this segment is, like has been the case for the past several weeks, it is going to be truncated. The full content will be in our newsletter that you can subscribe to at tvlr.fm. In new union campaigns, 5 workers at Mondelez Global in Springfield, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 823. 14 workers at Newbold Services in London, Arkansas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Local 360. 6 workers at the Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., filed a petition to hold a union election with the D.C. Nurses Association. 11 workers at Surtech in Alexandria, Virginia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Association of Plumbers and Steam Fitters, UA, Local 602. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 2 workers at News Tribune Company in Jefferson City, Missouri, demonstrated support for unionization with the Teamsters, Local 230M, 16M. 4 workers at the Uyghur Human Rights Project in Washington, D.C. filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 639, and 6 firefighters at the City of Melbourne, Florida's Fire Department have filed a petition to hold a union election with the Melbourne Firefighters Association, an IAFF affiliate. In election results, 102 workers at the Jacksonville Housing Authority in Jacksonville, Florida, voted 77-1 in favor of unionizing with the Independent Association of Public and Private Employees, IAPPE. 246 workers at the South Florida Water Management District in Florida voted 90-41 in favor of unionizing with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 30. 636 blue and white collar workers at the Nassau County School District in Fernandina Beach, Florida voted 210-11 in favor of recertifying the Nassau Educational Support Personnel Association as their union. 61 workers at FSCX in Fort Rucker, Alabama, voted 31-17 in favor of unionization with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. 17 workers at Reconsidered Goods in Greensboro, North Carolina, voted 15-0 in favor of unionization with the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, RWDSU. 10 workers at Southeast Service Corporation in Tampa, Florida, voted 8-2 in favor of unionization with IUOE. 140 workers at Radial in Locust, Grocer, Georgia, voted 42-68 against unionization with the RWDSU. In strikes and bargaining updates, immediately after Ultium workers in Spring Hill, Tennessee joined the UAW last year, they joined the nationwide contract and saw a 35% raise overnight. They just finished negotiating a local agreement, a local addendum to the national agreement, which members ratified by 98%. The local agreement included a $3,000 ratification bonus and 100% employer-provided health insurance. Bus drivers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, unionized with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU Local 1546, are on strike against the Capital Area Transit System, CATS, in the city, saying their employer is not negotiating with them in good faith. Interest arbitration for the contract negotiations between the Postal Service and the National Association of Letter Carriers, NALC, will begin on March 17th, with Dennis Nolan serving as the neutral arbitrator. The Communication Workers of America, CWA, began contract negotiations with AT&T Southwest, covering workers in Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas. The current collective bargaining agreement expires on April 12th. CWA members working for Red Cross in District 1 and 213, including workers in Virginia, ratified a new contract. The new agreement includes raises, increased retirement contributions, and additional pay for work on holidays, according to the union. Still in bargaining for a new contract, a year and a half later, Piedmont Airlines passenger service and ramp agents in Charlotte, North Carolina, who are unionized with CWA, took out a billboard criticizing management for raking in record profits and refusing to give workers a raise. The Teamsters have a great video highlighting workers at Southern Glazers in Fort Worth, Texas, who recently unionized with the Teamsters Local 745, talking about how unionization changed their life, and nurses unionized with the National Nurses United at Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina, held a rally last week to call attention to unsafe working conditions and staffing levels in the hospital that they say led to the unnecessary death of a man in the emergency room.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In political and legislative updates, Texas Governor Greg Abbott celebrated the firing of a state employee in the Real Estate Commission for having pronouns in his email signature, despite the fact that the employee received glowing performance reviews and was an essential member of the division. According to his supervisor, this is the Free Speech Party. An Alabama icon has been ordered sold off by Doge, the Freedom Riders Museum in Montgomery. That's right. A new study found that since 1975, nearly $80 trillion have been redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1%, and that if inequality was the same today as it was in 1975, the median income would be double what it is today. Senator Bernie Sanders reintroduced the PRO Act in the Senate to applause from the labor movement, but no Republicans are sponsoring it, including supposedly pro-worker Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley did introduce, however, with Cory Booker and with union support, the Faster Labor Contracts Act, which would require companies to begin bargaining with a union 10 days after the workers unionize, but it's unclear what penalties or enforcement mechanisms the legislation has. The Trump administration has executed multiple anti-worker actions this week under the Biden administration. The Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service was made available to facilitate card-check union elections for free. Now, Josh Idelson reports for Bloomberg that it appears the agency will no longer facilitate card check at all. A Department of Veterans Affairs memorandum has been leaked detailing plans to lay off some 83,000 people. Some probationary employees have already been let go, including in Birmingham, Alabama. At the IRS, where 6,000 workers have been fired already, the agency is poised to close audits of large corporations and wealthy individuals because they don't have the staff to do it. Railroad workers are frustrated at the billions of dollars that are sitting in bureaucratic limbo, which are meant for rail infrastructure improvements, which will only be further marred down by the firing of staff at the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA. The Trump administration also unilaterally and illegally canceled a collective bargaining agreement and all collective bargaining rights with TSA agents and their union, the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, citing in part lies about official time use, which AFGE notes accounts for less than 0.5% of all hours worked at TSA. Offices of the Mine Safety and Health Administration, MSHA, are also scheduled to be closed due to Doge, and the United Mine Workers of America, UMWA, oppose said closures. Some anti-worker actions from the administration have been paused, though. A district court ruled that the firing of Gwen Wilcox from the National Labor Relations Board was illegal and must be reversed. This will now be appealed to the D.C. Circuit Court, where the decision will likely be affirmed because it is consistent with the law, and then to the Supreme Court, where the outcome is unclear. The Merit Systems Protections Board ordered the USDA to rehire 6,000 workers who were illegally fired, at least for the next 45 days, though it's unclear if the USDA will do as instructed. The Merit Act has been introduced in Congress, which would reinstate all federal employees who were who were illegally fired by the Trump administration and give them back pay. In some good news for federal workers, Donald Trump is reining Elon Musk in a little bit after a tense cabinet meeting, according to the New York Times. Trump reportedly made it clear at the meeting that cabinet secretaries have authority at their agencies, not Elon Musk. Unions have reacted in different ways to the announcement of the Trump tariffs, although it doesn't matter now because it looks like he's pausing them again for some reason. Nevertheless, the different responses from unions when they thought the tariffs were happening was interesting. The Machinists Union called on the administration to, quote, end all tariff actions against Canada with no mention of Mexico. The AFL-CIO said the blanket tariffs, quote, run the risk of causing unnecessary economic pain for America's workers. The American Federation of Musicians called the tariffs misguided. IFPTE called the Canadian tariffs nonsensical. However, the United Auto Workers strongly praised the actions without reservation, saying, quote, we are glad to see an American president take aggressive action on ending the free trade disaster that has dropped like a bomb on the working class, and that they are in, quote, active negotiations, end quote, with the Trump administration to, quote, end the free trade disaster. Economy-wide, the Trump administration's antics are starting to wreak havoc. February saw more job losses in that month than any February since 2009. And it's not just government, though. Although government leads in job losses, the retail sector also suffered amid declining consumer confidence. The FAA last week also delayed flights to and from airports in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando due to the space launch debris from SpaceX. Love that for us. If we missed anything, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we'll try to include it on the next Roundup. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.